you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music. Hello and welcome. Charlie XCX tells us that Brat Summer is over, so welcome to Cage Fighting Fall. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody is well out there right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the chat beat. I don't even know what any of them words meant. I don't know what this Brat Summer thing is. I don't know who that Charlie person is. Got no idea. All I saw was, it's over, and it was going all over Twitter. I went, hello, everyone, yes. No idea what that means.
We've also got Ed with us. Hello, Ed. Ed, are you a Charlie XCX fan?
No, I don't even know if that's a boy, a girl, or an ex. I'm not too sure what that person is. So no, I don't know what that is. And certainly if it's over social media, I'm not going to be across it. But yeah, thanks for having me.
She's a musician.
Okay.
You will probably know I Love It, I think, was a song that she featured on that was kind of big, probably about a decade ago. They did it on Glee, Stu, so you will definitely know that song. And yet this year she released an album that was called Brat, and it was the Brat Summer because everything was about that kind of album. And she even said that Kamala Harris was Brat, and that sort of gave it an extra bump. But this week, Charlie XCX has declared that Brat Summer is over. So you better get the big coat out for the autumn and winter ahead.
I'm still none the wiser.
Yeah. I mean, that could be chat GPT stuff that just be completely made up. And I've been on the wiser. And as Ed thought I was in the nude tonight because I've got a pink vest on, Big Kels is not coming nowhere near these arms, not for a while.
Yeah, it's still short season, isn't it? Let's be perfectly honest. It's warming up. We'll move on. We'll get into the news of it to start things off. The first story that I want to bring to your attention, gents, is about Cameo. So this is where people would pay celebrities in some cases, a hell of a lot of money to send them or their friends a message. This went from $1 billion company during the pandemic. Like, it hit some highs, this company did. And a couple of weeks back, they were given, in a court case, a settlement of $600,000 that they couldn't pay. So this company has gone from the very, very highs to the very, very lows. This is the kind of company took off massively during the pandemic. I assume because stars couldn't attend, your Comic-Cons and the like. So, they couldn't get that money for old rope sort of thing. And this was a way to bridge that gap. So they could do, 50, 60 cameos in a day, make several $1,000s, and then that would be them done. They wouldn't need to do anything else. I mean, James Buckley reportedly earned more off doing cameos than he has out of his actual acting career at this point because of how much he's into. He's doing dozens and dozens per day. So it's a really good business model early days of the pandemic, but it's sort of dropped out now. Stu, can you see why that's happened?
I mean, it seemed to be a niche that was not there before, and it was filled pretty well with Cameo. But say that, I don't know anyone who ever did one, other than when they did it on the Football Ramble for a laugh.
Yeah.
But that's all it kind of seemed to be for me. And I never had the urge to do it, like, to pay Sean Williamson 30 quid in that Sean Williamson summer just for him to do something silly. So I never understood it in the first place, but there was clearly a market for it. But for that market to just absolutely vanish out overnight, it seems, is a bit bizarre. It's almost like this, like Charlie XCS or whatever, decided that you can't do Cameo anymore and people listen to her. Maybe it's something that's simple as that these people are so influenced by influencers that they actually change their minds with things. Who knows? But I don't understand it either, because it seemed like it was just one of them things that would just be here forever.
Ed, I mean, there are quite a few companies, like I know WWE did a version of Cameo and they were charging $500+ for some of their wrestlers to do these things. Surely there is a finite resource in a Cameo. Like, how many videos of James Buckley, who we've already mentioned, do you really need to keep buying? Like, this going to get to the point of saturation, isn't it, surely?
Yeah, there's only so many times you can say friend, I guess. It gets shared around your group, and once one of you's got it in a GIF, that's you sorted. But without trying to get too serious, I wonder if it's just the state of the world right now with how much everything costs. It boomed during the pandemic because although a lot of people were furloughed, a lot of people struggled, there was a decent amount of sort of middle-class people and people that were relatively comfortable that could work from home that all of a sudden had, like, their travel money free. You know, their petrol money, their train fare, whatever it is, that's free. And all of a sudden you're buying everything off Amazon that you can think of. You're buying cameos to your mates. You're getting someone from the in-betweeners to send something to one of your mates for 50 quid. Maybe that money's dried up. Maybe the well's gone dry. And like you said, if people are bastardising versions of it, you can get your favourite wrestler from the WWE to do one for you, and they're paying for it. That all of a sudden there's no need for it. And if that's a business model that can be part of a well-established IP, then I guess that makes sense rather than, this random. I've received a cameo from Steve Ball, our Lord and Saviour. He said, to be fair, 5 or 6 times in his tipped and draw, and he put his thumb up to the camera a few times, and I don't know how much that cost, but it probably wasn't worth it. I don't even know where it is right now. So,
I mean, it wasn't even just middle-class people who had money. I mean, I had, 80% of my wages for 4 months. Nothing to spend it on. And then in the end, I bought a PS5 when it came out, because there was no football, so there was no season tickets, so there was no beer, because there was no pubs, there was no pies, because there was no football. So I lost a considerable amount of weight and had more money to spend on rubbish. So yeah, there might be something in there.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, to be fair, Ed, that, that money is better spent elsewhere, where you've got something to actually show for it, whereas there's nothing tangible with a video, is there? So, and as you say, it just falls to the bottom of your meme folder on your phone and then gets forgotten. And how much is that worth? Realistically, not a lot. No. We're moving on.
Like you said, no way we can make memes of you for free every week.
There are too many of them floating about for my liking. Next story up is Deadpool remaining top of the box office, with Variety saying it was there due to a lack of compelling options, which feels quite insulting, to be perfectly honest, to both filmmakers and the audience at large. We've had a number of pretty well-reviewed films. I mean, Trap was very 50-50, but again, it's M. Night Shyamalan. It's got really good reviews for the acting of Josh Hartnett. Blink Twice was out, Cuckoo, Alien, Romulus. All of these films had a bit of buzz and were all at least decently reviewed. And Variety saying there's no compelling options. It kind of feels like they're saying those films aren't worth it, and you're an idiot if you think about it. It just feels a little bit insulting to me, that did. Ed, I know you've seen Deadpool, we spoke about it previously. Do you feel that there are a lack of compelling options at the moment, though? Is there anything that you would be interested in getting out and seeing?
No, and I think that's the point. It's the lack of compelling options for idiots like me that only go to 1 or 2 films every 2 or 3 months. I think that's the difference. You've mentioned all those films. I've heard them by proxy through this podcast, but I have no idea what most of them are about unless you guys talk about them. They don't. It's appealing to the masses, isn't it? I'm a Marvel idiot, you know what I mean? I will go to anything they slap something on and there's big loud noises and I can forget the troubles of my life for a couple of hours and watch, you know, people blast through walls and Ryan Reynolds break the fourth wall, you know, all those kind of things. And all of those ones, if I have to think about it, maybe I'm not in the right mind frame to want to watch them. So I think it's probably insulting for a proper cinephile, someone who loves film and loves movies, but for casual Charlie XIXs like me or whatever she was called, then they don't really appeal. And I would have to have a free afternoon and, you know, look into what all of those films are about to see if it's worth wandering down the cinema for.
They're mostly horror, so I'm guessing you probably
there we go. There we go. I'm not going to go and be scared. I'm not going to go and pay money to be scared. I can just look at my gas bill for that.
Stu, what are you thinking on this one?
I mean, first of all, I thought, well, they're just being arseholes, aren't they? They're just being... They're going full Gillard on this. That it's not a proper film. You can't really enjoy proper films. But when they say that, and then you look at the other films that, like Ed said, the filthy casuals enjoy, you look at... We'll come on to it later, because I have seen it, yeah. Beetlejuice, $110 million domestically. Second best opening ever in September. Already outgrossed the first film's global total, third biggest domestic opening in 2024. I mean, that's a film people want to watch. Again, what else was there? Romulus, $300 million worldwide on an $80 million budget. Again, a film people want to watch. People don't want to watch fucking nonsense about an apple or something like that. They want to be entertained. These things, that whatever that film, I'm never going to see, so I don't care. I know you will, because it screams you, that thing with that 17-minute standing ovation, whatever that's about.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I thought, I'm never watching you ever. Just on principle, because it's going to be shit.
Almost certainly, yeah. Because that is canned for you, but I know what you mean.
The performances are going to be more than likely excellent, but the film will be boring as fuck. And no, normal people don't want to watch that. Cinephiles and people who enjoy explosions and fun, like these big budget things or these big IP things, we've had 3. Look how well all 3 have done. I think that says it all.
It is interesting because they have come up against Deadpool and none of them have really... I mean, obviously Beetlejuice is slightly different because it's coming up at the tail end of Deadpool's run. But Romulus didn't really challenge it. I know it's done well overall, but yeah, it hasn't challenged Deadpool, which seems to reign supreme. It does feel like we are still at this point, we're still deep in IP-driven stuff. And if it's not IP, people don't care. Which also does surprise me a little bit because obviously Alien is existing IP.
I mean, to make that much profit already is pretty impressive. And Alien is, however recognisable it is very niche. And it is very old. And it is technically a horror film as well. I mean, I'd say that Romulus was scarier than all of them, but other than the first one, really. From a pure horror point.
Yeah, that's probably fair, to be honest.
And you can tell because it was practical, and that's probably why it was cheaper. And look how much better it looked. So,
I mean, I'm still sorry. This is going to be slightly spoilery, but the villain that appears right at the very end, the alien human hybrid, I'm still amazed that was an actual fucking human being and not computer generated graphics.
What?
That's an actual person.
That was that tall?
Yeah, it's a basketballer. There was a basketballer wearing that suit.
Oh, have they got them things on the feet and stuff? Oh, okay.
Right. Well, they look even more alien-like. But there was an actual person in there. That was practical effects.
I was trying to figure it out because it looked, you could tell it was a real person's face, but the rest of it, I thought, well, clearly that's got to be a puppet of some kind. To see how it moved and everything as well, it was.
I think it was a hybrid of, obviously it was a hybrid animal, and it was a hybrid of both computer and practical effects. But it was used very well, I thought. But we've spoke about that at length, that, practical effects are king when it comes to anything, personally, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Next thing I wanted to talk about was Glenn Powell being the best. He just is like such an incredible dude. And he was recently quoted, I think this is from Sharp magazine. Glenn Powell says he wants to build trust with the audience, that I'm going to work my butt off to make sure they're entertained. When they show up and pay their $15 for a ticket, they'll at least be able to say, I know that this dude is going to try to deliver quality. He's going to summon every bit of himself to try and deliver quality. There's a reason I think that people are drawing comparisons between Glenn Powell and Tom Cruise. Like, for all Tom Cruise's batshit beliefs, he's a film star, and it kind of feels like Glenn Powell wants to be the next Tom Cruise, that he just wants to give you something to enjoy. That's all he's interested in. He's going to give it his all to make you enjoy a film. I really appreciate that in an actor, and there probably aren't enough, because it feels like some actors, they want to do stuff for the money, and it kind of feels like he will get paid well for his work, but he wants to do for the love of the game as well. And I'm pretty sure you'll be in agreement with this, aren't you?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I never really paid attention to it, other than it was probably Maverick, the first one I kind of saw him in anything really. And then he was in that Netflix film as well, wasn't he? Where that was quite
Hitman.
Hitman. He was good in that, and then obviously Twisters. He's not playing the same person either, like you would kind of expect when you look at him and you think, well, he looks the way he is. He sounds the way he is. He's got to be the same. He's got to be Ryan Reynolds in it, but he isn't. And like, even when he was on Hot Ones, he seemed like a genuinely nice bloke, which is very bizarre for someone who's obviously already set for life financially, who has morals, and it is nice. It's nice to see that a normal person like that, almost like your friend Hayley, who's now got her own podcast.
Who?
You know exactly who. You said we can't mention her actual name and why she's famous, because she's doing it on her own now.
Oh, the viral girl thing.
Oh,
in the group chat.
God.
See? Point proven. I said her actual name. He had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll come back to Glenn in a moment. Ed, where do you stand on this Hawk to a girl nonsense?
Well, I didn't know anything about it until I asked the question in our Wolf Spancast group chat the other day, because it was going around in the group and I had no idea what was going on. So someone sent me the original video, and I'm guessing it's been mimicked elsewhere. But the 2 bits that Stu sent, or someone else sent, she seems like a normal girl that kind of just is enjoying her 15 minutes of fame. So why not? Why not?
Yeah, this is sort of where I feel with it, because good on her for exploiting people and getting paid, basically. But at the same time, I just find it an incredibly weird thing that a throwaway, moderately humorous line on a TikTok has spawned all of this. Like, she's meeting with presidential candidates and stuff. And it just blows my tiny mind a little bit. It's an issue I have with celebrity, not the celebrity.
It reminds me of Ricky Gervais back in the day, before he became a bit of a meme of himself. On the original podcasts, and he talked about people just want to be famous, not necessarily famous for doing something. And that's what people are striving for. And he said that, we're talking like 25 years ago or something now, aren't we? 20 years ago. And it's just getting more and more like that, I think, now that people are. Maybe she didn't do it on purpose, because it seems like it was a street interview and then she's grabbed hold of it. But that is what people now, it's not like I want to be famous to be a basketballer or a footballer or a movie star. It's I just want to be famous for whatever reason.
Yes, I remember that. So, if I remember rightly, didn't he make a joke about saying then you should just kill prostitutes if that's all you want?
Jack the Ripper, infamous rather than famous.
Yeah, it gets your name in the paper, and that's the end goal. Not I'm famous because I'm George Clooney.
You know, the body of my work. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that because I thought it was a really good point, which is kind of weird when you see what Ricky Gervais has sort of become over the last few years. Yeah, he has memified himself somewhat. Glenn Powell, though, Ed, thoughts?
As far as I did a bit of Googling before I jumped on, I'd only seen him in Maverick and then in Hitman, which I watched on the cage fighting recommendation list. He seems all right. It's a bit like to kind of mirror the two podcasts. It's a bit like with a Wolves player. Sometimes all you want is someone to get put the hard yards in, and most people like that in a person, don't they? Someone that's going to be working for it. So let's hope he doesn't turn out to be a wrong 'un in the background.
No,
but fingers crossed he won't be. And everything like at the minute, he seems to just be everywhere. Everything he touches turns to gold, doesn't it? So, and Hitman is better than the much better than the ratings it's got on IMDb as well. It's definitely worth a watch, and he's excellent in that, and he can definitely be a lead man, and he's just about handsome enough to not hate him, which I think from a male point of view is always part of it.
I was thinking this because he looks like, he's got the kind of physique that 99% of the world would want, but he still seems like a fairly normal human being, which is a rarity. So you could see him quite easily doing a romantic lead and you wouldn't hate him. You could see him doing an action lead and you'd root for him. There's nothing physically about him that puts you off him, which I think is like that's quite a win really for an actor in the modern day. We should be seeing him in the next few years. He's going to be in Edgar Wright's The Running Man remake. I don't particularly like remakes, but in fairness, that was based on the novel, and I don't think it was all that close to the novel. So I'm wondering if the next one might be a bit closer to it. And it's Edgar Wright, who, massive fan of the guy. And then we'll have another Top Gun 3. So, yeah, the future looks bright for him, and long may it continue if he's willing to, as you say, Ed, put the hard yards in. Stu, I'm handing over to you for the next one because I don't really know much about this. But The Hunt for Gollum, talk to me about what's going on.
I don't really know that much either, other than it was someone asked him in an interview about it. That Ian McKellen, if he'd play Gandalf again, and they wanted him to play Gandalf again, and then he came out with this quite sweet little thing of, as long as my lungs are healthy and I can talk and walk, and then I'll carry on acting. I'm not retiring. So, so that they wanted him to do it, and it seems like it's The Hunt for Gollum. It's a 2-part film, starring and directed by Andy Serkis. So, and produced by Peter Jackson. So it is getting the band back together, but doing it properly. So I don't think you're talking Hobbit wise with over CG 24 frames nonsense or whatever that was. But that's on top of this animated thing that we get in Christmas as well. But they haven't even got a script yet, so you're looking at the lead. Well, like he said himself, I hope they hurry up because he's 84 years old. So that's as far as I know. I mean, I don't really want to know more than that. There's 2 new Lord of the Rings films coming out that are based on Gollum. I presume. So in between the series and the series is 10,000 years, isn't it? So I don't think he'd be in that if that's what he was talking about either. Unless he films a cameo for years later and they do something with that. But yeah, the Hunt for Gollum. We obviously saw Smeagol as Smeagol at one point in that flashback. But that's all we've seen. So it's if it's going to be a whole thing about that. Who knows? That's all I need to know, and then I'll go and see opening day.
It's a huge part of the book. The book's trying to find Gollum. It wasn't in any of the films. I've only read the first 2 books. They're really hard going. The films are way better. But there's a huge part where they all kind of go off. Gandalf, I think, is the one who sends people off to search for him. That's the whole point. And it's never really explained in the films where they know where he is and how they can stumble across him and he stumbles across them. but it's a huge part of. You don't know anything about it. You just know that people are searching for him. So there's a lot of hay to make some fun with there. I think because there's nothing really in the books other than people go looking for him, so they can make it all up.
Oh, interesting. So this sounds like this could be a side quest to Lord of the Rings almost. So it's going on at the same time, and
and it's the main character. The main characters, some of them, I think Aragorn and a few other people are also sent out to search for him at different times. Because a lot of the books, the first two, is a lot of sitting around waiting for things to happen. So in the film, when the Gandalf leaves and then comes back and throws the ring into the fire, that's like 40 odd years that Frodo's held onto that ring in the Shire, waiting for the next step. But in the films, it's like 10 minutes.
And that was long enough.
And that's far too long.
That's interesting. So we've got that coming up. The Battle for Rohirrim, is that the animated one?
Yeah.
And that's due out this Christmas, isn't it, Stu?
Yeah, this Christmas, yeah.
Super. And is there anything we need to know about that before we get there? Or is this related to the films, the TV series, or neither?
This is a prequel, isn't it? It's because is it Miranda Otto is in this one? I'm pretty sure. Again, I'll just say it's about one of the battles that are referenced in the trilogy. So it's before all that stuff that happens.
Right.
So it is canon.
Right. And Ed, have you been watching, what's the series called? The Power of the Rings? Rings of Power. No.
I've watched the films. I've watched all the extended versions, all the editors' cuts and everything like that. But no, I drew the line there. I am a big fan of the films, but there's just so much going on that I find, and sometimes I find when you anchor yourself in the original, material, when you go off on one and do your own thing, it's kind of annoys me. So I'm not interested. If it feels made up, I'm not interested.
Yeah, you couldn't get over the Black Hobbit, could you? That's the real reason. I mean, funny thing is, I haven't started season 2 yet because I watched a recap thing, and I've got no memory of even watching it. And I know I have because I talked about it on here. So I went back and listened to old episodes of it.
I didn't like the Hobbit films. There was too many. It should have just been one film. And a lot of that was just crap.
The extended third one was fine, but that's about as good as it got.
It's a short book. It shouldn't have been 3 films.
No. And
they brought in a lot of that necromancer stuff, which is in the unreadable crap that he wrote. That is, it didn't need to be 3 films. It should have just been one romp of a film where you have the funny bits that happen in it and the serious bits that happen in it. It could have just been one epic film, and it was made into 3 mediocre ones.
I remember at the time there was a lot of criticisms towards it, and I'm not the biggest fan of that world anyway, so I never gave it a chance. But one of the things that I support on Patreon, they've done the first 2 films, they've reviewed them, so I've sort of seen it second hand almost. Like I know what goes on in the first 2 movies just from watching other people talk about it, and it looks dreadful. Like the CG and everything looks like it's regressed decades compared to what the original trilogy. Because even as someone who isn't a massive fan, I can't knock how that original trilogy was put together and how it looks. There's very few things that look as good as that does. But to then do a new series and it look as shoddy as it did was kind of dreadful.
Well, it looks like Attack of the Clones because it's the same stuff. It's the same technology, but even later on. So and the money it costs, it should not look as bad as it does. But a lot of that is because they filmed it in that stupid frame rate. And to make it like that and to make it work in 3D, they had to film it a certain way. So if it's one of the weird ones where if you actually watch it in 3D, it looks absolutely fine because it was designed for it. But then I've got both of them, both copies of it. So it extended in 3D, if you're a complete knob like me who loves 3D still, it looks better. It still doesn't look good, but it looks better than it does flat, which is bizarre.
Strange. Oh, whilst we're here then talking about 3D, I may as well ask you this question now. So I went to see Coraline on Friday, and it was in 3D. It's the 20th anniversary, I think it is. So they've re-released in 3D. So obviously went along with my 3D glasses, and these are the ones that I've had forever and a day, but they're the real 3D. They're the ones that have done the conversion for the film and everything. Watching the film with my 3D glasses on made absolutely no difference to when I took the 3D glasses off. Now, I don't know if that's a case of where I'm sat. Do they degrade over time, or was the film out of focus? Because it looked exactly the same with or without the glasses on, so I just ended up taking them off in the end. So I'm a little bit confused as to what was wrong with it.
I mean, it's plastic, so I suppose technically it could degrade. But it'd still be blurry. It sounds like they just put the old version on.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. You sure you went into the 3D show?
Yeah, because there's no way on earth, if you took the glasses off and you didn't see the shadow in, that was a 3D film, because you can always tell.
Yeah,
it was exactly the same without the 3D glasses, but it was definitely a 3D film because when the characters were in the far background, you could see like the blur, the shadowing, I should say. So it was almost unwatchable, but it was a case of, what was going in the foreground, you could follow it and the sound and everything. But no one else seemed to have an issue with it. Everyone else was enjoying themselves, but obviously I didn't talk to them because I'm not talking to strangers. That's weird. But yeah, just so I don't know if it's a case of anything else. And I've never had this problem, so it's not like it's to do with me wearing contacts rather than my normal glasses. So I was just a bit confused what was going on.
It might be that. It might be plastic degradation, which would be an incredible thing to happen, but it would only happen to you, wouldn't it? So,
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've had these ages because I don't go to many 3D films. I don't really see the point, but there just wasn't a choice to do a non-3D version of it, so it is what it is. Good film, though. Well worth a watch, I think, if you've never seen it before. I was really impressed with it. Next up, we're talking about the Trump biopic, The Apprentice. Now, originally, the story was that he's found a studio and it will be released soon. That studio then pulled out because one of the backers apparently had some issues with some of the scenes in it, which showed Trump taking drugs, and there's a scene where he rapes his first wife, Ivana. So they pulled out, and now it's gone to Kickstarter, and Kickstarter have funded it, and it's still coming out. So it seems like this film was released at Cannes last year, and it's supposed to be a very, very good movie. A lot of people are interested in it. It's got great reviews. There's Oscar buzz and everything about this movie. But a lot of the studios wouldn't touch it because it's about Donald Trump, and they don't want to risk losing money because, obviously, in America, 50% of Americans are going to say it's the worst film ever made, and the other 50% will say it's the best film ever made, purely drawn along political lines because that's how things seem to roll in that country at the moment. So a lot of people have just steered completely away from this because they know they're only going to get half of the money that they could potentially get. But someone now has taken a risk, and it does seem like the public obviously want to see this movie, so it's now coming out. Stu, this is about his sort of 80s period, as far as I can tell. It's going to be early days Trump, when he was on his rise and, when he was sort of on top in the world. Are you interested at all in this movie? Would this be something that would tickle your fancy?
I mean, the fact that it's controversial, absolutely yes. I mean, I hope it kind of ends in where he's cameo in Home Alone 2. That'd be nice.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
But it's a bit like that Jim Caviezel film that I didn't enjoy it because it was horrible. The one about the child trafficking.
The QAnon one. Sound of Silence?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom, that's the one.
It wasn't QAnon. It wasn't. Well, not really.
It's QAnon backs.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was backed again on Kickstarter because no studio would touch it, and he kind of explained why afterwards, and the amount of studio execs that got sacked and arrested because of it later on. But when things like this happen and studios pull out, and then it kind of, well, why are you doing this for? And in this case, you know why? Because, like you just said, they don't want to be seen to be choosing sides. But that means it's intriguing to me, and I enjoyed Donald Trump in a kind of weird, strange way. He's a fascinatingly stupid man.
That's a character that doesn't impact on your life directly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really bother us here. I suppose it does in a way, but still, it's funny. And just to see the meltdown every day over what happened the last time he was there, it can't be any worse, can it? This is the thing. Things have got worse since he wasn't there. I'd say bad things are. So I probably will go and see just a morbid curiosity more than anything else. But like you said, other than that, it is getting a bit of normal buzz around it as well, which I didn't expect.
Yeah. Ed, where do you stand on the? Are you a Trumper? Are you a part of the cult at all? Are you?
No, and a bit like a Simpsons reference here when Homer closes his eyes because then whatever he does isn't illegal. Sometimes I want to close my eyes and just pretend he doesn't exist. So that he's he's I like you said, he's an interesting character, and if he was the character in some kind of Desperate Housewives sitcom type nonsense, you would probably think he's been over dramatized. The fact that he's a real life actual person, and he said half of the things he said, he's just he's a bizarre man. I'll probably watch it whenever he gets streamed on whatever streaming service picks it up. But you can see why studios aren't picking it up, because he's like you said, Andy, he's such an incredibly divisive character. I don't understand the 50% that think he's a good option. But like Stu said, I also saw all those people that thought Biden might have been the answer, and then he turned into old man Joe very, very quickly. And he wasn't the right answer either. I just think we should do a hard reset on their politics.
Yeah. I think the thing that pisses me off most about this, I've been waiting ages for a studio to pick up the Toxic Avenger, and I'm still fucking waiting. But we're getting this one now. Where's my Toxic Avenger movie at this point? But I am looking forward to this. I do like Sebastian Stan. Jeremy Strong, obviously, Succession, he was fantastic in that. So I am looking forward to this one. And I said to you the other day, Stu, early next year, we're going to talk about biopics, because it seems like next year we've just got a slew of biopics coming out. So I think there's a conversation to be had about there. So we'll probably be revisiting this one if it does actually make it to the big screen. Finally, now this is one I know, Stu, I'm guessing you'll probably be on my team on this. Ed, where do you stand on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
It was always beneath Thundercats for me, so I watched it, but it was never as big on my list, because I was a Thundercats nut that watched it almost every day on old video cassettes that I'd record off the TV. So I liked it, loved it. It's a great part of my childhood, but it was always second or third fiddle, to be fair. Once the Turtles came in, it then became a hard third and then easily forgotten. But I'm looking forward to anything that has that IP. I'm all over it. I'll be watching it. I'm a filthy casual. Remember that fits into a filthy millennial casual man in his almost 40s.
I think when I think back to my childhood of animation and whatnot, my first love was Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah,
that was the greatest. And then it probably was He-Man. Like, Adam was my boy. I remember when I had the 3.5-inch figure as a kid, and I left it on the bus. And my mum said that she's never seen me upset for the next 40 years of my life. So it was when I lost Adam. So Adam would, He-Man Master Universe would have been next. Then it was Ghostbusters and then the Turtles. And the Turtles are probably the one that has stuck with me. As you can see, looking at my camera, you can see Mikey over my shoulder right now. The Turtles are the ones that have stuck with me. But like, when it comes to animation, I think that Masters of the Universe was probably my first love. Stu, where does it rank in your listing?
I mean, first of all, when you say you were the 3.5-inch over Adam, I thought, well, this is going to turn for the worst.
He's ripped.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably second for me behind Turtles. Turtles is always number one. And then probably He-Man, then real Ghostbusters, I think. Thundercats was around, but it was never at the top of the tree. But I mean, I think when I was the annual retreat to Whitby, and the limited Freeview channels that were there, but they had Freeview the digital ones this year. So there was one that just showed He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from the original cartoon. So I put it on just to see what a 7-year-old in 2024 would do with this information being bombarded into him. And he sat there spellbound. Boy, I thought, yes, this is how you get it.
Imagine, because like when magical things happen on the screen and the animation twinkles and that, like you almost don't see that anymore. It does sort of look magical when you watch it. So I can completely understand a kid today getting the same sort of feels, because I imagine it hasn't aged massively, especially because it's set in a different time and a place anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's got the Scooby-Doo-ness about it, obviously, because of its age, but it doesn't look bad. I mean, it's not unwatchable. But yeah, I was very surprised, and yeah, anything. I mean, I haven't seen I know Goldie has the Netflix one.
I think he was all right.
I saw one. I saw the first one, and I thought, oh, this is okay. But it didn't grab me. But live action is something about it. And if the Dolph is in there, there's a little cameo. That's all we need. It's got to be done. Surely.
You'd hope so. You'd certainly hope so, because I do feel like he deserves a nod for his role in all of it. But so yeah, like the actual story that I was going to talk about, Alison Brie has been cast as Evil Lynn, which feels like the perfect casting visually, at least. And she's an actor I've got a lot of time for. I'm a massive Community fan, so I will watch anything with Alison Brie in. So she's been cast. Nicholas Galitzine, I believe his name is, has been cast as He-Man. Now, he's the one who's been in the film with Alison Brie, a fairly recent one that is released. I have forgotten the name. It was one that was out on Amazon Prime a few months back and got sort of semi-decent reviews. Somebody I used to know. So this is this guy. I don't know much else about him, if I'm being perfectly honest. And Camila Mendes is playing Tila. Again, not a name I'm particularly familiar with. So it seems like Alison Brie is the big name attached to this so far. I'm quite excited about the idea of a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe film. Like you say, we've not seen a live-action version since the late 80s, so more power to this. I can't wait to see what the future holds. Ed, it also apparently says that Skeletor is going to be in this film. Now, the first name that springs to my mind is Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
In the case. Who would you cast, do you think?
It needs to be someone with that kind of manic ability. Jim Carrey is another one that jumped out, but I don't know if does he do films anymore? I never know if he's in or out of films.
He only does Sonic now.
Oh,
yeah. He's retired bar Sonic.
you need someone that can play that manic character. So Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey, you need some kind of rubber-faced person to play that character. I think you have to have, and it needs to be someone who's able to fill a screen, and to be balls out in their performance. So it screams Nicolas Cage. It really should be.
Stu, what do you think?
I mean, without even being a bit, I thought Nicolas Cage straight away as well. And actually, you want to go like completely off kilter, like Neil from The Inbetweeners or something like that. Just someone like really, someone lanky and just something you wouldn't expect. Because it's an incredibly camp role.
Yeah.
So you can't play that straight in the slightest. But I'm trying to think, because you don't really get them anymore. This is kind of what we've been lamenting over the last few. I mean, you couldn't really ask Glenn Powell to do. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't make any sense. But maybe Ken himself. Who knows? He's got that kind of, he'll do anything now. He doesn't seem to care. So why not?
Yeah, I'd be all for that, to be honest. I mean, any excuse to see Ryan Gosling. He's just one of those actors now that I think I will watch him in anything, because he, like we said about Glenn Powell, he gives it his all in everything. So I'd be all for that one. Lovely. Right, that's the news done. We have had a question in on the Twitters from Matt Gunnington. He wants to know, what streaming services do you guys subscribe to, and which, if any, give the best value for money? Stu, what do you subscribe to at the minute?
I mean, I've got the big three. They're the ones that are on the Fire Stick remote. They've got their own special buttons.
Yeah.
Disney Plus, Prime, and Netflix. And just looking at it out of sheer curiosity of what I've watched, because I went full July about this year because I thought every year I try and remember, and then I don't remember what I've watched. When we come to the end of the year, where the roundup of things, and there's always things I miss off. I thought, no, I'm just going to write it down, everything I watched this year. So just looking through this, it's a mix. There's very few things on Disney Plus, but that's not really for me. It's for the kids' side of things. A lot of it is...
How much did they watch Disney Plus?
I mean, Corey watches every day. So every single day, because that amazing Spidey is on there.
Okay.
So he watches that every single, at least hour and a half every day, without fail. So you got Disney Plus. So Shogun, Welcome to Wrexham, The Bear. Is there anything else on here? Echo, start of the year. Jesus Christ. So yeah, there's not much on there. Then you look at Netflix. Netflix is still the one where, I mean, I've got a few that I'll mention later. That's getting a lot, but even that, I mean, because I have to have the best. That's like 16, 17 quid a month now if you get the 4K HDR package. But saying that, it's clearly getting its use, and I don't think can you really count Prime Video because it's just included with your free stuff anyway. I mean, I'll watch a lot of stuff on Prime. That probably
I think that's something you have to take into account when it comes to value for money.
Yeah.
So you do also get, 1-day delivery.
Yeah, if you take it on its own merits, Netflix is the best. So if you don't care about all the gubbins, well, if you want overall value for money, because you do get live sports on there as well, then Prime Video probably.
Ed, what about yourself? What do you subscribe to at the minute?
Yeah, I've got the big three. I think the sensible answer is that Prime is the best value because, like you say, if I want a bingo card, I can get it here tomorrow, and if I want some groceries, I can get it here tomorrow as well. It's mental what you can do. I don't know. I guess for me, I use the streaming services as background noise, so I will throw on Netflix and put on a Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode or two. And have it on in the background. I know them off by heart, so I'll just dip in and out when I'm doing something, And I do the same with The Simpsons on Disney. Realistically, Disney was bought for my lads, but I've got a lad from the 1930s who just wants to read Secret Seven books and finds anything moving pictures on a screen, some kind of, so ungodly thing that we shouldn't be doing. So he watches Peter Rabbit, both of them, both the Paddingtons because they're masterpieces, and he'll watch the odd thing on, a Star Wars thing or not that I'll force him to watch, and he'll watch that through a book. So Disney, I think, would be the one I'd get rid of because I think that's the one he's watched the least and he utilised the least. But I think I mostly use it for background noise, and when you think about how much you're paying for them, you do scratch your head, but then you continue to pay for them.
I mean, quality-wise, it's probably Apple.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. $6.99 per month. I don't know what it is in pounds, but actually saying, yeah, quality-wise, it's unparalleled almost. I think it's what they produce is outstanding. But there are issues that come with Apple TV. Like I think, so Wolves, the Brad Pitt and George Clooney film that is due out any moment now. That was supposed to be getting a cinematic release, but Apple TV are no longer doing cinematic releases, it seems, because they're scared that people are going to take the piss out of the fact that it doesn't earn any money. So like Scorsese's Cloverfield didn't really make them any money. Reputationally, it was wonderful because it's a great film. But as we spoke before, people don't really go and see these movies anymore. So it seems like Apple TV is scaling back on their cinematic releases. So eventually that's going to get to a point where you think, is that going to fall off? A director's going to want to go and make films for a subscription streaming service only and not get to see films on the big screen. I don't know if that's going to be value for money long term, but at the moment, you've got stuff on there like Shrinking was an absolutely fantastic TV show. Silo we've spoke about several times and very excited for what season 2 will hold. They've got an Oscar winner in Coda, which I'm sure nobody has seen Coda apart from me at this point. Like they do have good quality on there, but the problem is they've got maybe one really, really good show running at any one point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is Slow Horses at Apple as well?
It is, and it's fucking incredible.
It's been getting talked about quite a lot now. When I mentioned it 4 years ago, and when I said I didn't really like it, no one cared, did they? Nothing. But now it seems to be getting that kind of Breaking Bad buzz where everyone's always watched it from the start.
Yeah.
It is kind of convincing me now to go back and think, was I wrong? I mean, we'll come to that in one of the questions later. But it does seem to be the one that's broken through to the mainstream because Silo was, however brilliant Silo was, it was incredibly nerdy. And it's never going to be the biggest thing.
Full sci-fi. So, yeah, absolutely.
Same with C as well. I like that. I enjoyed it, but again, it's full on sci-fi. The other what are we missing? We're missing the Severance. Again.
Severance, yeah. I mean, Ted Lasso obviously broke through as well. That was one of the mainstream hits.
But Severance is, again, very hard sci-fi.
And it's excellent.
Yeah, and people have talked about it, though. The Slow Horsey seems to be the one that's easier for everyone to access and get into.
I think so, because most people will recognise the Jack Bauer 24-ness of Slow Horses. So it's quite an easy in. I think like you don't need to have an ear for sci-fi to get into it. You're there straight away because it's counter-terrorism pretty much. MI5 nonsense. So I think you'd get into it pretty easily. I defy anybody, if you watch the first 10 minutes of the first episode of Slow Horses and aren't hooked, then it isn't for you. If you watch those first 10 minutes and love it, then you'll love the rest of the show. The plan was to watch one a week, and I ended up binging like 3 seasons in 2 weeks because it was just constant. I need to know what happens in the next episode. It's fantastic. And I think they're only like 6 or 8 episodes long seasons as well, so it's not a massive commitment at the end of it. But yeah, Slow Horses is great. But I think when it comes to my streams, I only have Netflix currently, legally. I only have Netflix because I get that through my phone contract. If I didn't, I probably wouldn't even have that because I feel like Netflix quality isn't there anymore. And even some of the better shows like Umbrella Academy, apparently season 4 is absolute dog shit. And I loved seasons 1 and 2. I never got around to 3, and the plan was always to do 3 and 4 at the same time. But apparently that's fallen off. And I'm so tired of investing in Glow, for example, and Glow getting cut before it's been given the full story that we wanted. And Netflix seems a right bastard for doing this. Out of all of the streamers, they're the ones who don't give their shows enough of a time to find an audience. I mean, there was one in the summer that I think they cancelled season 2 within a week of season 1 being released. So that show was never going to find its audience in that time. So I think for like pure investment, I don't feel like Netflix is value for money, and it's going up and up. What did you say it was, Stu? About 16 quid now for the top
4K one, yeah. Something like that.
So it's got to be at least 10 quid just for the bottom end.
Yeah, that's what I've got. It's $11.99, I think, the bottom end.
I wouldn't say Netflix is value for money at the moment. I think we've said before, it's one of those things where you'd probably be better off taking a month here and a month there on different subs and just watching a bit of everything. It's just kind of sad that there's nowhere anymore where you can watch everything like what Netflix used to be, where everything was available. Now you need a Peacock, you need a Hulu, YouTube TV, for example. You need a bit of everything, and it's kind of defeating the object. But I'd go with what these guys have said, and I wouldn't have Netflix. I can't speak enough about the others, but Netflix isn't value for money for me anymore. If I wasn't getting it sort of free through my phone contract, I probably wouldn't bother, to be perfectly honest. So moving on to the questions. First one is, what have you seen lately? Ed, what have you been watching?
So I've caught up with Sherwood, which is a big thing on the BBC at the minute, which is all right. I watched the first series on the iPlayer, and the second season's on now. It's relatively interesting, set around the miners' strikes in the 80s, and there's a bit of murder mystery thrown in there as well. But on Prime, and it must have been popular at one point because even I'd heard of it, and I'm not on social media. I watched Fallout over the last couple of weeks. It was all right. It wasn't as good as the games. It was fine. It was some of the stories, some of the episodes dragged on. Some of them I wanted more. It was all right. I'd give it like 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. But it was enjoyable, and it was gratuitous violence without being gratuitous. I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed a couple of the storylines. There was too much jumping backwards and forwards in time for me to really understand exactly what was going on all the time. And it wasn't difficult to follow. It was just boring to follow at times. It's like, oh, now we're back now in this fake 60s, 50s vibe. And now we're back to present day. And if anything, it needed to be longer for some of the characters to actually be able to develop, which I never normally say. But for me, I felt like they kept it nice and short in the season. But it probably could have done with a couple more episodes, I think, to flesh out some of the characters a bit more, get you invested in them. Because when people do or don't make it without trying to spoil it, you didn't care that much.
I think that's a very fair summary of it, to be honest. Sort of how I felt. I didn't dislike it. It just
The games are better.
I've not played them, to be fair. So I didn't know if it was not playing the games that meant that I didn't have the same feel that everyone else seemed to have. But it seems like not. It was just that it's just an okay series. Stu, what have you seen?
I mean, there's a plethora. I'll go with them in order of watching. Chaos on Netflix. Kaos. Which is, I watched in 4 sittings, 2 per night.
How many episodes are there?
8. So you could have worked that out then.
4 times 2, that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, no idea about it whatsoever. I put Netflix on to watch the end of Receiver, which was this year's NFL program. And they kind of Drive to Survive, and their quarterback last year, blah 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 blah. And he came on, and it was there, and obviously seeing Jeff Goldblum, that's the hook straight away. Yeah, drag you in, and I thought, I have no idea what this even is. So for once, I watched the Netflix, the little trailer at the top of the screen, and then it was talking about Zeus and all this stuff, and I thought, what? This doesn't make any sense. So I had a quick look, and it's about modern day. It's implanting the stories of Greek mythology into modern day Crete, and it's superb. I don't know why it works. It just does, and I know Matt was talking about it in the group. Rest in peace. But I thought, nah, surely not. And then I watch it, and when he says, when you look at these things and it's billed as a comedy, most of the time it's not funny. Wokeism, whatever. But he's stroking his little cat as well. It was thoroughly entertaining in a very strange way that I don't really understand. And it was almost like, spot the British actor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when a certain Doctor Who appears with an eye patch, I thought, oh, okay. And it's in Paul McGann for a while. And then he's off, and then Eddie Izzard's there being Edwin or Izzard, or who knows. Again, not explained. Doesn't have to be explained. It's actually chaos. And it's got so popular that it's all. I mean, they haven't announced it, but the creators already said, "Well, we're doing a 2 and 3." So if that's with Netflix or with someone else, it's going to happen. And so I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable, and I don't know how this just snuck up. Again, a Netflix problem. Have you seen it all?
I've got it on the list to watch, and it was a case of I'd heard about it a day before it was released because there's just no advertisement for it anywhere. We spoke about this as well before, about Netflix. Usually they promote things maybe for the week that it's released, and then you hear nothing of it and it falls off out of favour. But
Yeah.
this sounds like it's got a solid cast, so hopefully it might have legs to go for a couple more years.
And in the same way, on Netflix, I was going to watch a different film. I was going to watch Trap, because you said about the issues you had with it, and I said, well, as long as it's better than old, then it's all right to watch, which is a good thing to say. I enjoyed it, fine. I know exactly what you mean. First half is very different to the second half. It should have been 4/5 in that way, and the end bit being the end bit. But it was fine. I agree with what you said about Josh Hartnett getting some recognition, because I didn't think he had that in him. I don't know how he's got the same hair as he always has done. That was a bit annoying, even though he's put a few pounds on over the years. But see, even he's not perfect. But yeah, I enjoyed that. But in not watching that on the night I was going to, because I found just them random Google things that pop up when you go on there onto Chrome, and you get that screen sometimes that's recommended for you. And there was a Guardian article about this film called Rebel Ridge on there. And I thought, what the fuck is this? And it got 4.5 stars in the Guardian. I thought, Netflix's breakout hit that no one will know about, or something like that. And I thought, okay, that's enough for me. Don't care who's in it. I'll just watch it. There was someone pointing a gun, and that was enough. So I watched it, and it is fucking class. It's up there. I'd say 8, 9 out of 10. One of the most enjoyable films of the year. I was shocked at how good it is, and yet again, it's on Netflix. No one knows about it. It's not gonna because it's got such a stupid name, Rebel Ridge. Doesn't mean it means something if you watch the film that's only mentioned about an hour and a half into it. So it's got no record. It's basically First Blood, but in a small town America rather than in jungles. It's just a guy who's posting bail for his cousin, who gets pulled over by the cops. He's a black guy, gets pulled over by the cops. You can kind of see where it is, rural America. He gets knocked off his bike. He has 70 grand to bail money that he's got to bail his cousin out of jail. This is in the first 5 minutes. It's not a spoiler. He's got to bail his cousin out of jail, and they're going to set up a towing company. I think he was a boat company. And he's going to buy a truck. And so these two redneck cops take his money off him and all these claims and stuff. And he's a veteran and all this kind of stuff. So you think, oh, this is going to be one of these. It's going to be race baited, but it really isn't at all. They are redneck cops, but he kind of explains it throughout the film why they are the way they are. And it's got way more depth than I expected it to be. And like you said that you'd seen some of these other stuff that it made, and it's very, very clever in what it does at times. But the action is superb. And everyone just go and give it. It's on Netflix. Give it a chance. Rebel Ridge is one of the most underrated. Well, not even underrated, because no fucking seen it other than me and the Guardian.
Well, there's a phrase you don't often hear. The Guardian from you, Stu.
Yeah, exactly. Every now and again. Unlike Terminator Zero, I've only seen 2. Not great so far. But the main event of the week, Beetlejuice. I didn't love the first one. Like we talked about before, I thought I hadn't watched it for 20 odd years. When I watched it the night before I went to see this one, I remembered way more than I should have done. So I've obviously seen it at some point, and it's been deleted from my head. And I enjoyed it enough. Again, it was never ever one of my favourite films as a kid anyway. It was just one of them there. It was like the Addams Family. I never loved the Addams Family. I love the Goonies. And there's a Goonies 2 now, finally at last, apparently.
Is there?
It was announced yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Not the game either. That was actually a sequel. But yeah, it was one of the 80s films that was just there. If you want that, Back to the Future and Lethal Weapon, like we talked about a few weeks ago, it was never even in my top 10. But I enjoyed it enough. The second one, though, what a great film that was. It's such a laugh from start to finish. And it plays on the whole thing, and it's not the usual requel thing where it's just playing the hits. It's a very different film to the first one. I thought, how they're going to get around the pretty shit effects, if we're being honest, of the first. But they bring them back. They bring them back, and they do. It's either very good computer version of stop motion or a very good version of stop motion in itself. But there is stop motion, and everything looks a bit shit anyway, deliberately. Well, there's people like some of the like this, how they get around the problem with one of the guys being an actual nonce and why he's not in the sequel. That's very funny. Which I did. Well, I thought, oh, is he dead? And then I looked at it, I thought, oh no, he had child porn on his computer, didn't he? So he's killed off in the first 2 minutes of the film. So that's not a spoiler. But yeah, it was just wonderful. It was a great old time watching the film that I didn't really care that much about. But I will say though that there was a Gillard incident in there that I thankfully didn't see. But behind me there was a couple. I mean, there was about 30 people in there. Whatever. It was 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. But there was a couple in there who had been, so a few rows behind me, had been nattering to each other all the way through. I mean, I saw it about 20 minutes into the film. Someone walked up the stairs and took them out. I thought, oh, someone must have rang the cinema. There'd been knew they were here and found to get them out or something like medical emergency or whatever. So I was talking to someone afterwards in the toilet, and they said, oh, that bellender. I was like, what you on about? He said, them two, that couple in front. So they just talked throughout the whole film. So they've gone to see this film in super screen as well. So the extra £3.
Paid premium, yeah.
Yeah, so they paid a premium. So the best part of £20. They had popcorn and drinks and nachos and everything. And yet they'd just nattered all the way through. She had her phone on the armrest and was checking Twitter on the armrest. He kept going up and he was on his banking app.
Jesus wept.
And it's the first time I've ever seen anyone removed. So thankfully, hopefully they're listening to us. Because I've never seen anything like it. But
No, I've never seen them actually remove anybody. Never even seen them talk to anybody. They're usually fucking useless.
Yeah, but this was almost like it was too far. I mean, sitting there with your phone on the arm of the chairs, scrolling Twitter, watching a film. I mean, it's bad enough. This is what we said the other week. If you want to watch films with your phones, go to special screens for the idiots like this. This is the only way to combat it. But they didn't even kick up a fuss by the sounds of it, because I didn't hear anything. I was engrossed in the film.
Didn't sound like they were there to watch the film. That's probably why they didn't kick up a fuss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wasted their own money and everyone's time. So, but yeah, Beetlejuice is very good, which is something I didn't expect to say.
Well, that's interesting. Like, you're probably the only person I've seen give it that effusive a review. Most of the ones I've seen have been somewhere in the middle. Like, nothing massively negative, nothing massively positive. But yeah, never mind. I've seen a shitload recently. I've watched a ridiculous, even for me, I think I've watched a ridiculous amount of films. I'm not going to go through all of them. New film, Afraid, and the AI in Afraid is capitalised because it's about AI. I think Blumhouse are shit at this point in time. I really liked Blumhouse movies back in the day. They were the horror version of A24 almost, but maybe a bit more on the schlocky side, like the more fun sort of horror than the more intellectual. But at this point, I feel like we've had a good year solid of Blumhouse films just not really cutting the mustard. Like what was it? Is it The Orphan? Yeah, Orphan 2, I think it is. So, but the first one's fun, nonsense. Second one's cack. We had that. We had Megan, which just didn't do it for me at all. We had Five Nights at Freddy's, and now we've got Afraid, which just seems like another one of these technophobic movies. They invite Alexa into their house, but Alexa is this thing that ends up taking over the world. She gains sentience and literally takes over the world, making people do her bidding. And it's just like the most obvious average film you've ever seen. Like, it wasn't outright awful, but it was just really boring. Nothing happened in the movie to make it interesting. It wasn't scary in the slightest, considering it was either 15 or an 18. But again, much like Five Nights at Freddy's, which had a R rating in America, there wasn't a drop of blood to be seen. So it was just kind of pointless a movie. Really, really disappointed with that one. I then watched Borderlands in spite of Stu's review of saying it was dog shit. And it is. Like, it's not a good movie. There's no two ways about it. I didn't hate it as much as Stu, but I've never played the game and I had no hopes of it being any good. So I wouldn't say it wouldn't be in my bottom 5, but that's because it was never of interest to me, really. So yeah, there's that one. I then had a night of watching films about school shooting. So I watched, we need to talk about Kevin and Elephant, which was, I don't know why, it was a Saturday night. Let's go wild. So yeah, we need to talk about Kevin. It's a really, really good film. Ezra Miller is a tremendous actor in spite of all of their issues off screen, shall we say. Like, they're talented, really talented, but yeah, we need to talk about Kevin. It sort of gets you in the feels. Ezra Miller plays the titular Kevin, and he has a very horrible relationship with his mother. And it doesn't seem like the mother did anything wrong to really deserve it, but there is just always this friction between them until the point where it sort of starts with the school shooting, and then it goes back and talks you through their relationship. And it also then ends with the school shooting and him, Kevin then in prison. It was brilliant. I'm really glad I watched it. It was a really thought-provoking, intelligent movie. Excellent. And then I watched Elephant, which is a 2003 film based on the Columbine shooting. So it was a case, it followed several people throughout the day going in and out of school, and then it ends with the school shooting. I wasn't quite as impacted with that as I was with We Need to Talk About Kevin. But again, that was a good movie, well worth a watch.
There's one like that about, I remember mentioning it last year, was it last year or the year before? About Australia's biggest...
Yes, Nick Tram.
Yeah, Nick Tram, yeah, Dennis backwards, isn't it? Or
Martin.
Oh, Martin, yeah. Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, for some reason, I was thinking of that film, and that's why I ended up watching We Need to Talk About Kevin, because I just wanted something similar to that. So I think if you liked Nick Tram, you'd probably like We Need to Talk About Kevin.
I was thinking, because I was told someone to watch Des. That's why I was thinking of Dennis. So I was going to mention that again because, the talent playing Dennis Nielsen, ITV drama.
Yes, with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen The Lobster, Yorgos Lanthimos and Colin Farrell? No, it's good. So basically, Colin Farrell's character splits up with his partner, and then he goes into this hotel, and while he's there, they have to find their forever partner. And if they don't find their forever partner, they then get turned into an animal of their choosing. And he chooses a lobster if he doesn't find his other half. It's a really good... I like Yorgos Lanthimos. I think he's a cracking director. He did a film which we'll talk about in other
Screams Andre, that film.
It properly does, to be fair, but Yorgos Lanthimos is probably a little bit more mainstream than that, but again, he's one that likes a thought provoker. He also did The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I also watched, which again is
that's a good
proper. Yeah, I like Colin Farrell. I think he's a tremendous actor, and he's really good in both of those movies. So I've watched those, and what was the last I was going to mention? Dee Dee, which is it's a coming of age American early 2000s film. If you liked 8th Grade by Bo Burnham, which I know friend of the podcast Tara was a massive fan of 8th Grade, I would say watch Dee Dee. They represent the early 2000s perfectly. It's really funny. It's kind of heartbreaking. It talks a lot about what it is to grow up and at that period of time and the isolation that comes with it of being a young mid-teenager. Brilliant movie. So yeah, that was the other one that I wanted to mention. Moving on to our individual questions. Stu, I think, I've got you up first, please.
Yeah, this came from a Wired video with the cast of The Boys, and they were all kind of talking amongst themselves as they do, where the ones where they peel the thing off. You see, I watched one with Michael Keaton today. I couldn't believe he was as old as he is. shocking.
He's in his 80s, isn't he?
70.
Or nearly.
He's in his 70s. Yeah, I mean, he looks old in that video, to be fair. Reese obviously doesn't act it. But anyway, there was one with the boys, and they were all talking about like, Anthony Starr and everything, and he was saying about how he's just memes all day, every day. And they were saying like, he keeps the show relevant without even doing anything because of the memes and because the boys being on Prime Video. It's not really a mainstream thing that you see advertised that much, other than the fact that it was on buses for season 4. And I thought, well, do memes actually improve or make worse the things that they're from? Because for me, you look at the boys and all the Homelander stuff is hilarious. But now on the reverse side of it, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff where they're sitting around the table with Sean Bean, it's a bit of a piss take now. And like, whenever I watch it, I kind of laugh because you're thinking of that. So do memes affect you in a certain way? And does it taint or promote the original material? Andre?
I'm trying to think, because a lot of the films that become memes, I tend to have seen them before they've become memes. Maybe it's an age thing. That obviously a lot of the films have been, that way around. So I think if something appears in a scary movie, epic movie, dog shit parody movie like those, it probably does take something away from the film. Like you said, we've seen the scenes of them sat around the table in Fellowship of the Rings, and you can have my sword, and someone probably puts a dildo in there or something stupid. Yeah. And then when you watch it back, you think, oh, I remember this scene, and they've taken the piss out of it, and you've got your memory of the original, and it probably does take away from it. The only film that I can think of that I've seen after it became memeified was when we watched Vampire's Kiss, the Nic Cage. I was going to say monster film, but it wasn't. He just thought he was a vampire, or did he? I don't know. I'm still confused by it. And there was like a bit of enjoyment because the memes there weren't cracking jokes. Those memes were GIFs on Twitter that we've seen. So there's 4 that appear quite regularly on Twitter, and they're all from that film. And it was nice to have that recognition of this old film. It didn't detract anything from me because there was no joke attached to it. So I think in some ways it does. I think it does if it's been parodied, but I think it doesn't if it's just a straight gifification of the film almost. I think that adds to it because you've just got that recognition even though you have no idea what this film is about. But you see Anthony Starr doing the thing where he blows his cheeks out because he's just had a near miss. And then when you watch the show afterwards, you would get that recognition. Oh, that's where it comes from. It doesn't take anything away from it because it didn't try to do anything with it other than just show you what it was.
Ed?
Yeah, that's it. It's like, without trying to sound like old man shouting at a cloud, it's kind of what doing quotes of movies and TV shows with your friends when we were like teenagers. It's now a GIF, isn't it? It's now a meme.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is now, isn't it? It gets sent around. Again, without trying to sound like an old man, it gets sent around group chats now because you don't just meet at the park, and or, you don't go around people's houses to play PlayStation anymore. You just play online. You don't necessarily have that same personal connection. So, I think context is everything, isn't it? I think if it's taking the mickey out of a film, it's probably going to go more viral. But I think it's now quotable. It's the way that we quote films, we quote TV shows now, instead of, being absolute nerds doing it while you're playing Crash Bandicoot or something.
See that. Right, my question next then. So I want to know what is the best film featuring Willem Dafoe. Now, I was quite surprised earlier when I looked. His name is actually William Dafoe. His nickname was Willem, and it just stuck with him. So I thought it was an interesting bit of trivia. Ed's best film featuring Willem Dafoe.
I looked him up because I always see him as like a good character actor that's always in films, never really the main man. And there's a lot of good films that I've seen on the list that maybe I either haven't watched or don't remember. But I'm going to go with The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
What a film that is.
I love that film. I loved it so much. It's 2003 or 2004, I think. It's an absolutely random film about a documentary maker, Bill Murray, and his crew trying to find a shark that eats his best friend. There's a love triangle with Owen Wilson. There's stop motion, random sea creatures in it. There's people getting harpooned by interns. It's an absolutely random Wes Anderson film. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of there's a Portuguese man or a Brazilian man singing David Bowie songs in Portuguese. It's an absolutely random film, but it's an awful lot of fun. And Willem Dafoe plays a jealous first mate in this sort of submarine boat adventure about a documentary. It's a good little film. It was either going to be that or Spider-Man, so I went with this one.
What's he called?
The Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou. Bill Murray. 2004, I think.
Classic. Yeah, 2004.
There you go.
It's Wes Anderson, so it's got a very distinctive look to it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of
colourful.
Oh, yeah, I found it.
Yeah. I think that was probably my introduction to Wes Anderson.
Yeah, me too.
Well, does Bill Murray look the same?
Yeah, like he's never changed since the Ghostbusters days, has he?
Sold his soul. It's a fun little film, Stu. You're not going to learn anything from it. It's not going to get you in the feels. It'll make you chuckle in places and make you go, oh, bloody hell, in places. It's a good little film. And Willem Dafoe was in it, so he fitted the category. So it's just a way of talking about a random film that I watched. And it's probably on DVD somewhere in a box somewhere that I don't know where it is anymore. But I bought it on DVD. I liked it that much.
Yeah, I like Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
But you are right. I don't feel like any of his films challenge you as a viewer, do they? They're all just nice little fun stories that either make you smile or make you sad, and that's enough. Yeah. And I like that as a director, and visually, I don't think there's anybody like Wes Anderson when it comes to the visuals.
No, and it's good stop motion in this as well. 2004, but it's good stop motion. It fits the random nature of Wes Anderson films and the random nature of this film. It's not very long. It's worth a go. I would say.
I've just noticed as well, it was co-written by Noah Baumbach, who I am a big fan of. Marriage Story I thought was just a tremendous film, one of the favourite films over the last 5 years or so. Noah Baumbach's a really good writer. I might rewatching that because it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's probably verging on 15 years, I imagine. Stu?
He's done a lot of just different things.
Yeah, they're all very different. That's why I found it difficult.
Wildly different, yeah.
I mean, the one that jumped out straight away was, we've talked about it enough times on here, The Lighthouse, how awesome that film is. And both of them are superb. Both of them could have won Oscars for it, and probably should have done, if it wasn't just so fucking strange. But the film, I've now watched 2 Willem Dafoe films in 2 days by complete accident, that I didn't know he was in Beetlejuice either, because I avoided everything about it. So, and he is genuinely brilliant in it as well, which, when he plays an actor who's playing a cop who's dead, in true Willem Dafoe style. But it's more of a kind of Spider-Man campy way than anything else.
Right, okay.
But he can do that, and the fact that he can very much do the opposite in The Lighthouse. And like whenever that film comes up, it's just superb. And no, not enough people have seen it, or even know it exists.
No, I don't know what that is. So
it's a black and white film from about 3 years ago, which normally I would say absolutely no way, but for some reason I was drawn to it. And is that A24?
A24, yeah.
That's probably why.
It will leave you questioning the depths of your soul, I think. It's one of them.
It's him and Robert Pattinson not being shit.
I like Robert Pattinson.
He was good as Cedric Diggory.
He had that period where I think he just had to do those kind of films because he was young, handsome and British. So he had to do that kind of movie. And obviously Twilight's where he made his money. But ever since Twilight, like as an actor, he's only done interesting things. Also Radcliffe. Daniel Radcliffe doesn't really do mainstream Hollywood movies anymore. So I've made money, so I'm just going to do what I find interesting at this point. So I really appreciate that with both him and Arpat. But yeah, I knew you was going to say The Lighthouse, so I have picked something else. I do love that film. But it is such a difficult choice because you look at his filmography, and he's got everything from leading man to supporting actor. He's got everything from big fucking blockbuster to tiny little indie. He's a man who can do it all. And he looks like the most deranged fucker you've ever seen. I think when Disney finally get round to doing Hercules, the live-action version, they need to have Willem Dafoe as Hades, because I think he's got the look.
Oh, could he be Skeletor?
I mean, yeah, he could. They wouldn't even need to put makeup on.
No,
He's just got a crazy face. He can just do the job. Like, yeah, I really like Willem Dafoe. I think he's tremendous. So the film I've gone for is actually one that, as I said, I wasn't going to talk about the other film of Yorgos Lanthimos. This is a film that was out earlier this year, Poor Things, with Emma Stone and the guy, Hulk, Incredible Hulk, Stu, Mark Ruffalo. The reason I'm going for that film, as I think is his best film, is that's the one where 3 big hitter actors give their best performances to date. Like, I think I'm a big fan of Emma Stone, but I thought she was fantastic playing Bella Baxter, someone who the character has the brain removed from a baby and put into her body, so you see her grow from a baby in a grown-up body to being an older person, but the body never changes, and it's all about her exploration within the wider world. Just a fantastic performance. And as much as I loved Lily in Killers of the Flower Moon, I do think that Emma Stone deserved the Oscar this year. Tremendous. Ruffalo, I think, is an okay actor. Like, he's a solid hand. I've never seen him in a film and come away thinking, you deserved an Oscar nomination for that. And he absolutely did in this. Like, he was kind of evil, kind of sweet, and you never quite knew what you were getting with him. And he just walks the line between the two perfectly while being this really over-the-top dipshit. He was brilliant in it. And then Willem Dafoe, who played he was the Frankenstein of the piece, basically. He was the creator of it all. And his Scottish accent actually sounded Scotch. Like, you heard him say, oh, okay, yeah, you could actually almost get away with being Scottish rather than an American trying to do it. Whilst having this makeup on to elongate his face and make it look like he isn't Willem Dafoe. But he clearly is the most Willem Dafoe you've ever seen him. So, yeah, Poor Things was my favourite. Okay, so take us home and give us the final question, please.
Yeah, so my question was, what film, either acclaimed critically or with the masses, do you just not like, or just not get on with? Start with you, Andy.
I've tried to go with one that I haven't mentioned a million times on this podcast, so Forrest Gump, probably not going to mention it. And what was the other one? Shawshank Redemption is the other one that I kind of bring up quite often. I think he's not really all it's cracked up to be. So the film that I'm going to go, it's a relatively new one. I was listening to a podcast the other day about some Studio Ghibli work, and they were raving about The Boy and the Heron. And actually, I might just lump in pretty much most of the Studio Ghibli things that I've seen, because these feel like the kind of things that I should probably like. They do sound very Andre Gilles, but they do absolutely nothing for me. I mean, I've seen one or two, like Howl's Moving Castle I quite enjoyed, and Spirited Away I thought were good. But the vast majority of them, I don't know if I just don't understand them or it's the actual artwork doesn't appeal to me. I always come away feeling like I've seen better animated films from Disney, of all places, that offer more than Studio Ghibli. And I don't know what it is. And I try. I really want to like them. But they always just leave me wanting more. And and not in a good way. I always feel slightly hollow after seeing them, and it just does nothing for me. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on why. I can't understand it. I don't know if there's a mental block with me where it just doesn't connect or what. But yeah, some podcasts are talking about The Boy and the Heron being like the best film of last year, and it just wasn't even close to being. It was at best okay, I suppose. So yeah, I'm going to go with Studio Ghibli. I know you asked for a specific film. I'm going a little bit more general, and yeah, Studio Ghibli doesn't quite work for me, unfortunately.
Stu?
I mean, I had My Neighbor Totoro on there as well, which is a Ghibli film. But it was... The thing is, I remember liking it, and then when I watched it a few years ago, I thought, I don't like this at all. I'm bored. Which was bizarre. I mean, like Andy, I've mentioned last picture show on here several 100 million times. Well, a waste of bollocks, that is. There's certain things like it's almost heresy saying Gone with the Wind and Singing in the Rain, but they're just too old. I don't like them.
Singing in the Rain's tremendous.
I love Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain is incredible. Gone with the Wind can do one. But...
You're going to get abuse over this one, shit. Fantastic.
Yeah, of course
film.
it is. I was, exactly why I was saying that. I was just giving her a 5 minutes of fury. Obviously, Singing in the Rain's fine. But now, Gone with the Wind, never got it. Never have. But it's old. It's very old. So I don't know if it's one of them at the time things like Chariots of Fire. That was probably good at one point. But it's too far removed now. I never got it really. But the one, when I was looking down the Oscar things, and Oscar films are always wanky anyway, like we always say. But there was one there that I thought, I know people don't really love it, but it still won. Shakespeare in Love. I'd never understood that film. Like, what the hell is this? I thought, well, it's clearly, it's got to be a dry year. And I think we've talked about this before when we were about Oscar years and stuff and things that should have won and shouldn't. And you look at it and you think, it's just shit. It's rubbish. It's so dull. It's like any other romantic comedy-ish drama, but it's just set in with Shakespeare. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. Never understood it. Never will.
What did win the Oscars that year?
That did?
Yeah, but what else was it? I mean, what else? What else was up with it? I'm just looking it up now quickly.
Yeah, so
I know, but it was 99, is it? I remember it being dead boring.
Saving Private Ryan, Life is Beautiful, Thin Red Line, Elizabeth was out then. American History X, I mean, that is a tremendous film, which you'd think the Oscars would be all over. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's not a brilliant year by any stretch, is it?
That might be the reason then.
But no, it's not a good movie. What was your answer to that one, Ed? What?
So for me, I had such a visceral hatred of this film. I watched, there was two films in the same time. I did a film studies course at university just to fill out some quota. And we were made to watch 2001 Space Odyssey. That is like forever of my life I'm never getting back. Awful film. So dull. Pretentious people might tell me that it's good. It's not. But we were also made to sit through Fargo. Now, Fargo was the most boring crock of nonsense I've ever sat through. Now, I was like maybe 20, 21, so I've never gone back to it. And I didn't watch I know there was a recent, well, not that recent, but there was a series on it.
Series is better.
Yeah, and I just never got it. I didn't understand, and it's not because it's a Coen Brothers film. I've watched a few other Coen Brothers films and find them funny, and I like the fact they're not about anything. But Fargo just didn't get me. I just didn't understand it. I don't know if it was the incredibly affected accents. I don't know if it was the fact that it was sort of nothing was going on in it. It just didn't. Whether I was in a bad mood because I was just out of teenage years, so maybe hormones were raging. Not sure. But we were made to sit through it, and more than once, and I just couldn't. bear it. So I've never watched it since. And every time it's mentioned by anyone, it's like it makes me bring up bile. I can't stand it. I know it might just be that I was in the wrong mind frame to watch it, but I couldn't stand it. It was so boring. And apart from the body in the shredder, that was the only thing that raised a smile. Couldn't stand it.
I'm genuine. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything bad about Fargo. I honestly can't. And yeah, the TV show is good. The first season is basically a retelling of the film, but stretched out with added bits. And each season is it's an anthology season, so it's a different story altogether. Yeah, I'm quite stunned at that. I've got to be honest.
Like I said, I've never revisited it because it just brings up that horrible image of just that sitting in a dark room in North Wales where I went to university, being made to watch this, and then the lecturer waxing lyrical about things that I just didn't see. So I wonder if it's that as well. But on my list, Forrest Gump would have been above this, but because it's been talked about and added for an item on here, I didn't bother. That's another film that can pass me by as well.
Yeah. Wow. I think the reason I liked Fargo is when I was at uni, one of my favourite courses was about film noir. And that is a film noir, isn't it? So I think that was where I sort of chimed with it. But it's also the reason I hate French cinema. Like, I couldn't watch French cinema for years. So I remember doing a course at uni, and I was just like, this is the most poetic, wanky nonsense I've ever seen. And it's not until the last couple of years seen some quite interesting French horrors. I'm like, oh, okay, actually, there is a different side to it. It's not all.
Maybe I'll bite the bullet and again and see.
Yeah, I mean, if you like other Coen brothers,
yeah,
I'm surprised you don't like that, because they do. It's like one of their better ones, especially when you compare it to stuff like A Simple Man I didn't love, and Burn After Reading wasn't one that I had love for. The Lady Killers, terrible. But again, it's Tom Hanks, so a bit 50-50, ain't we there? Lovely. Right, okay. That's the QuestionCast portion of the podcast done. We'll be back after the break where we're going to be discussing Nic Cage's Dog Eats Dog. Ed, thank you very much for joining us for the QuestionCasts. Great to have you back on again.
No, loved it. Loved it. Anytime you need me, just give me a shout.
Welcome back. So we're here to discuss Dog Eats Dog, starring Nicolas Cage and Willem Dafoe, in a film written and directed by Paul Schrader. I'm a big fan of Paul Schrader, Stu. He's the guy who wrote Taxi Driver. So he's got a history of doing gangster stuff and stuff where it's all about the murkier side of life. This is completely new to me. I had never even heard of this film before. So where do you sit with this one? Is this new, or had you seen it?
Yeah, completely new to the point of I couldn't believe there was a film called Dog Eat Dog.
And look, the title, I know that Dafoe plays a character called Dog, but the title sort of means nothing in this movie. Like, I was a little bit confused having watched it. I'm like, don't fully comprehend why they've called it Dog Eat Dog, other than it's because it's his fuck up that costs them. So he's the one who ate the heist. I don't know. I don't know if that was just me reaching or what. I couldn't quite grasp where it was going.
I mean, you can kind of see it from the phrase's meaning itself, as it's all meant for themselves, and there's hints at that with the big guy, who I can't remember his name, the third one.
Diesel.
Yeah, Russell. It's loose, but it's just a put on his name, isn't it? That's where it's come from.
Yeah, I think so. This has probably one of the maddest opening 8 minutes of any film that I think we've discussed on this podcast. Genuinely stunned. Like I'd say, Paul Schrader, he's known for writing Taxi Driver. He did First Reformed, The Card Counter from a few years ago. Films that are have got a bit of grit about them. And at first, I couldn't figure out if this was a comedy or a fucking thriller or what on earth it was going to be. It was so weird that we open up with Willem Dafoe sat in this sort of violently pink house. And then all of a sudden, he looks like a proper tweaker in this. He's very skinny. He's clearly a drug addict. And then this woman appears who turns out to be his bit on the side, I think. Like, I'm not quite sure. Their relationship is very tenuous and not particularly nice. Slightly toxic is the vibe you get because the kid doesn't like him. And then she stumbles across the fact that he's been on her laptop and there's all this porn that's clearly just infected the fuck out of her laptop. He slits her throat and then shoots the child. Not that since Face Off, where Nic Cage's character shoots a kid in the opening scene, have we had anything quite this crazy. I was just blown away. Like, I was almost agog watching this movie, like, what the fuck is going on here? Utterly mental opening.
But it's the colours as well, all over the screen. Like how he gives to that kind of, like pop vinyl kind of ish, like mixed with train spotting and all kinds of psychedelic madness. When you could do a whole film study of breaking it down on his drug abuse and the psychedelics, or you could just say it's just fucking insane, which is what it is. And to go from that to then black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously that's when we first meet Nic Cage's character. It's in the black and white part where he's talking about his drug offences. The cop says no to bailing him out. So he steals a cop's gun and then runs for it. And again, I'm like, I didn't expect this of a Paul Schrader film. I was expecting this to be grim and gritty, and this is bordering on slapstick comedy. Very bizarre opening. Like, I almost felt like it was a Benny Hill theme tune was missing from it. Like, that's the sort of level we was coming on from. And it was like proper horrible shit that they were doing. It wasn't even like it was nice stuff that you can get away with being comedy. It was grim and grotty. I don't know if I liked the beginning because it was so all over the place.
Yeah, he want like where you follow these films where you're following criminal. Like, I'm not going to mention Goodfellas and stuff like that, but and The Godfather, where you're following the criminals and you're rooting for the criminals. All of these people are terrible people, and you want them to fail in their endeavours because maybe that's the point. Maybe it's just completely got over my head. I don't know. But you are right. For something like this that's so unknown, maybe this is why it's unknown, that it's been blacklisted and banned forever. But the fact that it's on Freevee and on Plex, available for free for everyone, is just baffling anyway. And that was going to be my crazy later, but there we are. Yeah. I still don't know what it is. You'll have to watch it. Was it a comedy? Was it a thriller? Was it a satire? I've no idea.
Yeah, I'm properly stunned. On IMDb, it's got it listed as an action crime thriller.
No, it's not.
And like it doesn't.
Rebel Ridge is a crime thriller.
Yeah, there's crime in this, so I get it. I'd say crime and thriller are probably right, but the action there's none really. I can't recall any fights. I know there's a couple of people who died, but that's very much the crime element of it, not the action element of it. There's no heart racing moments of excitement throughout this movie that you'd attribute to action. And the other bits were just a bit too silly for my taste, especially as to say from a writer-director of Schrader's standing in my eyes. I just couldn't get on with this movie at all, to be perfectly honest.
Like when they...
So,
like the bit when they're in the... it cuts from one scene where they get all the money, and then literally straight away, it's cut into them jumping around in a hotel room, getting smashed up, and you got all that them buzzy effects going on again. Literally minutes after, there's no, like, it's just a sharp cut. There's no, like, if there was a Star Wars Dissolve, it would have worked better.
Yeah. There's just no transition between scenes. It was like a proper shot, I should say, a sharp cut. It was a handbrake turn into something else, into seeing Willem Dafoe getting a hand job. Like, where the fuck did this come from? Yeah, proper bizarre. What I did like, we got to see Nicky Whelan in another film with Nic Cage. I think I've only seen Nicky Whelan in like 5 films. And 4 of them she's been in with Nic Cage. I don't quite understand how she keeps getting work with him, but more power to her, I suppose. So what did you think of the film overall? Did you enjoy the experience? Did you think... I felt it a bit of a slog. I think it clocked in at just over 90 minutes, but for me, it felt a lot longer.
Yeah, it felt about 2.5 hours long. After about the bit where they're all standing around and they're saying, yeah, shall we kidnap this kid? I know it's not what we normally do, but then we'll be set. We'll have the £200,000 each or whatever it was. After that, and then when they go to the house, and then what happens there after they took the kid, all in up to that point, thought this is excellent. Well, it's not excellent, shit, but it's actually in a fun, entertaining way. After that, it properly dragged, and there was a couple of times I was watching this in the afternoon as well. That a couple of times I had to like rewind 30 seconds because I'd nodded off.
That's always a bad sign, isn't it? But I completely agree. Up until that point, it was watchable, but it wasn't good.
Mm.
And I feel like, I know we've said this about other films, I felt like there was a nugget of an idea to this movie that just sort of got lost in all of the nonsense. Like, I kind of like the idea of them stealing they kidnapped a kid to blackmail someone to get money, but they couldn't blackmail that person, so something has to change.
Yeah.
I like that idea that shit's gone silent. It sounds like a Coen Brothers film almost. You know, a crime's been committed and now you need to think on the fly. And that could have been really interesting. But then it just turned into a bit of a dirge and there was nothing really of any interest. There was nothing that played out in the rest of the film that wasn't completely expected.
Yeah, like when he went to get the when he ends up in that mall and he's when he's concealing, do we say?
Yeah.
It's just strange. Like when he still just walks out and there's them two random coppers there,
Mm-hmm.
and then Nic Cage again goes insane for no reason.
Woman in the face.
Yeah, with the worst screen punch probably since. It looked like one of them. It looked like the Flash.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Yeah, it was. That looked awful. That was. I mean, that was high school drama club level of screen violence. It looked dreadful.
I mean, did they reverse it? Was it reverse shot?
I assume so. Because it did sort of look like it was.
There was no impact, and obviously you don't want to be punching women. Well, for the most part, but there was nothing. Was that it was just like a kind of pull. Yeah, that's what it looked like anyway.
No. Yeah, I was. I don't know if I was disappointed because I did look on IMDb and it's got 4.8, which 4.8 is basically, it may as well be 2.1, hadn't it, on IMDb. If it's anything less than 6, you know it's going to be borderline dreadful. And this was, I think, when it came to it, I really didn't enjoy this movie. There's absolutely no chance on earth that I could recommend this to anybody. I can't think of a single person out there who would watch this and enjoy it. Which is weird because the tagline of this movie is that it's the best thing Schrader has done in decades. And it's just not.
No. I mean, if you could probably show someone the start out of context, there's a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. It's not even like on the so bad it's good sort of level of being poor.
No, there's excitement. If it was all that first third, then yeah. But it's not. I mean, you could just say, you could end it there. Just show someone the first third.
Yeah.
Then here you go. That's it. And you'd have a better film.
I agree with that. Like, I think if you were to do this in film studies or something, you could break down that opening scene and have a real fun time doing it. But then the rest of it, you'd just be pulling teeth to get through it. I think it was a struggle. Especially when it was two actors who, like, we are big fans of, and it's a writer-director I'm a big fan of. Disappointed. Very disappointed. So, good, bad, you've said you're crazy already, so anything good, anything bad you've got to add to it?
I mean, I thought, to be fair, I thought them two were good in their own strange way. I thought they carried what was ultimately a very bad film. But Willem Dafoe more than Cage. I think just because he looked like he was just completely unleashed to just do whatever the hell he wanted to. And that's what it seemed like he was doing. But yeah, everything else was just piss poor, and it's not even up there with Next, because the Next had some kind of, there was a bit of buzz about that, and people seemed to like that film. This, because we didn't know anything, nothing lost. It was just a disappointing experience, I suppose.
This feels like he's very much in the dark days of Cage's career, doesn't he? That period of time where he wasn't really on big screens, he was just doing straight to DVD schlock. And this feels very much like that's where he is in his career at this point. Which is kind of interesting, because he paid, this is going to be my crazy, Nic Cage paid $100,000 of his salary to Willem Dafoe to get him to star in this film. So, like, Cage gave up some of his money for this, and I think this is around the time that he's paying off his debts from when he went bankrupt. So for him to have given up money to get Dafoe, whether that's the case of Cage saying this film's shit and I want my mate here with me, like, that's potentially what it is. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he went all out for this movie, because whilst Cage is fine in this film, there's nothing really that he gets his teeth into. Other than, like, he seemed to enjoy, because there's that bit where he's talking about, do you think I look like, was he Humphrey Bogart? He says, yes, do you think I look like Humphrey Bogart? And then later on in the film, he does an impression of Humphrey Bogart when he said he's jaw broken after being beat up. You could see he kind of enjoyed that, because that's Nic Cage, that's the impression we get of Nic Cage, that he's very much a cineast, that he's a cinephile. And I think he enjoyed getting to play around with that a little bit. But outside of that, there's nothing in this movie for someone of Nic Cage's standing to really get your teeth into. And I could say the same for Dafoe. Like, that character was bordering on silly when I think it needed to be quite tragic, rough around the edges, and tragic, yeah. Like, it needed to be a bit more, it needs to be more than what we were given. We were given silly when it needed to be straight and tough and horrible. And it just didn't quite pan out. So, yeah, that's my good and the bad, is that Nic Cage and Willem Dafoe, they were good in it, but they were massively underserved with this terrible script. Because it just... And I don't think the direction was there. I don't think Schrader got the best out of his actors in this. Whilst they were fine, they were very... Muted's not quite the right word, because we did have moments of the frayed around the edges Cage and Dafoe that we expect. But it just felt like it didn't... Like, you need to restrain their craziness at times. You need to harness it, I think. And I don't feel like he harnessed it. It almost felt like they were phoning it in at times, because he didn't have anyone to sort of direct their energy. So it was just sort of dissipated, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was just a mess of a film. So my answer to, like, the next question of, did you enjoy the film? For me, it's a no. I won't be watching this again by any stretch of the imagination. Stu?
No, exactly the same. It was one to tick off the list. It's done with now. Like a lot of these in the bad category, you can't recommend it to anyone. No, never watching this again.
I mean, I think we've seen films of Cage's that I've hated, and I didn't hate this, but it wasn't an enjoyable experience. Like you say, it was one that it had to be done, so now it's been done. So it probably won't be looking at the bottom 5, but it's also probably not far off it, because it was a bad film.
Yeah, I think 4. I mean, the funny few things on IMDb of people saying, like, giving it 1 out of 10. This is surely the end of Nic Cage's career now, but who wrote it at the time? How we laugh. That was probably more entertaining than the last 2/3 of the film, but yeah, it's just very much there, but in a bad way. I think, which is kind of worse than being terribly shit in itself, I suppose, because we can't even... No, I think you got it right when you said that it's not even too bad, it's good, it's just bad.
Yeah, definitely. Cage good, Cage bad?
Yeah, weirdly enough, yeah. He was fine. He wasn't the problem with this film.
Yeah, I agree. Everything else was shit on this film, to be perfectly honest. But the acting wasn't the issue here. It was the direction. It was the script. The cinematography was ugliest sin. Like, it didn't serve any purpose to the film. I didn't think it did anyway. It added nothing of any real substance. So this film is a mess, but it's not because of Cage and Dafoe and the other actors in this movie. Yeah. So if you enjoyed Dog Eat Dog, you may also like. What do you reckon, Stu?
Sin City. It's
Okay.
It's stylized, it's violent, but it's better.
Yeah, that's a great shout, to be fair. My answer was going to be a different Paul Schrader film because I like Paul Schrader and I think you can see him at his best if you watch First Reformed starring Ethan Hawke. That's it. It's a really good film that he's got one of the most explosive endings of any film I've seen. It takes you on like a proper psychological drama throughout it, and it breaks you down, and it's tragic, and it's kind of harrowing, and I loved it. And I like Ethan Hawke. He's the kind of actor I don't think gets enough praise for his work because he's good in everything. He's always a really good actor. He never seems to pick roles that get him to excel, but he's always within the confines of the film a dependable actor. And I think that kind of role, that character actor, goes overlooked somewhat. And Ethan Hawke, his name's probably more famous than his roles, I think.
Yeah.
And that might be down to having, like, obviously a famous wife and a famous daughter. So he sort of elevates them as a family. But yeah, Ethan Hawke's tremendous in this movie. So yeah, First Reformed, out in 2017. Good film. And it breaks you down and you feel at the end of it. It's well worth a watch. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Right, so that's another Nic Cage film in the record books. Next week, we're going to be talking about... where's my notes? Scorsese Watch is up next week, Stu. We're going to watch Bringing Out the Dead, which is Nic Cage and Party Marty directing it. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of his films and what we like and maybe dislike about Scorsese. I'm looking forward to that because I love Scorsese, but when he gets it wrong, I think he gets it really wrong. So I'm looking forward to chatting Party Marty. So cagefightingpod@gmail.com for emails, at cagefightingpod on all of the socials. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcatcher that you listen to us on, and a 5-star review is mandatory at this point. So for this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Shall we just say no? I was going to say, shall I do the whole Beetlejuice thing? But there were still people in there. You could hear them in the toilet afterwards. Because, you know, the ones where it's men and women in the same block in the middle.
Yeah.
And you could hear them when they open the door going, you do it in the mirror. And they're like, it's not fucking Candyman. You don't have to look in the mirror. But none of them would say it 3 times. So if you're brave enough, do it yourself. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me. And remember, be excellent to each other.